Hello my friend, and welcome to BBQ Basics. We're going to talk about some of the things that you need to get started in barbecue. Now, whether you're trying to be in a competition, whether you're just barbecuing in your backyard, or you're doing it for a business, these are some of the basic items and tips that you will need to make your barbecue a success. So let's go ahead and get started. Number one, the first item that you're going to need is a grill. No matter what you are doing, you're going to need either a barbecue grill or some type of way to cook your barbecue. Now there's many different types of barbecue grills. There's the typical stick burners, offset burners which use wood. There's your charcoal grills, which primary heat source is charcoal, whether that be lump charcoal or just regular charcoal. There's gas grills, which are primarily used for steaks or really hot and fast type cooking. There's also your pellet grills, which allow you to have more control and adjust your temperatures with the drawback of not having as much smoky flavor as you could from natural wood or even charcoal. Finally, there are electric smokers, which use basically coils to run electricity through to produce heat, and some of these have smoke pans and other ways to infuse and input smoke into your food. Now each of these have their pros and cons, and each one have a varied multitude of options. Myself, I've used almost all of these. Now for competitions, of course you can't use gas, but you can use charcoal, wood, or pellet, and you can't use electric. My first smoker that I ever used, now once again let's define that. A smoker and a grill is a little different. A grill once again is used for hot and fast. Usually the meat is directly over the heat source, which is usually coals, whereas a smoker uses an indirect heat or heat that is very far away from the meat to allow the meat to slowly cook and absorb as much of that smoke flavor as possible. So my first experience with barbecue in Louisiana, they most of the time use grills, and it's kind of a grill slash smoker because they'll take a 55-gallon drum and cut it in half and then use that as their smokers or grills. The coals are usually right up underneath the meat, therefore the meat is more grilled than actually barbecued and smoked. So you can adjust your coals to make it into more of an indirect, but most times when I go home, the flames are right up underneath the meat and the pit master's right there watching the food to make sure things don't burn. Now once I got out of the house and started being able to cook on my own, I used another couple of different types of smokers. I had an offset stick burner that I got for a Father's Day present. Took me a while to figure out how to use that. I thought I had burnt a couple of whole chickens, but turns out they had just got a heavy dosing of smoke. And I've also used barrel smokers, Weber Smoky Mountains, and right now I'm using a grill and a pellet smoker along with my Weber Smoky Mountain. So there's a lot of different grill options. Number two, you got a grill, now you need a heat source. Now each one of these grills has its own heat source. For the electric smoker or electric grill, of course you have to have access to electricity, and you're going to need some wood chips that will be put into that smoker to allow it to have the smoky flavor. Your pellet grill will use pellets, of course, and these pellets are made of usually wood dust or charcoal that has been compacted together. Various brands, various sources. You'll just have to figure out what works best for you. Of course, your stick burners will be using wood, and of course there's so many different varieties of wood you can use, from hickory down to pecan to flavored woods, fruity woods like cherry, and so there's so much things you can use, cherry, apple. And then of course you have charcoal, and there's so many different brands of charcoal, lump charcoal, just plain solid briquette charcoal, but each has its own merits, each have its own drawbacks. You have to become the barbecue doctor and start experimenting on these different items to see what works for you. Now you have your grill, you have a heat source. Now you're going to have to get some barbecue tools. These tools are not the same as you would use in the kitchen if you're just cooking a piece of chicken. Some of them are, but some of them are specific for barbecue because you're dealing with intense heat that is direct. So you're going to need some cutting boards, of course, different knives, but specifically you're going to need some pans, pots and pans and tongs, and those things you really want to have specifically for your barbecuing, because you don't want to ruin your loved ones' pots and pans on barbecue, because once that pot, pan, or anything that goes into one of those grills or smokers, they're going to start absorbing some of that flavor, and they're going to start getting marred and scarred and tainted and tinted in a way that will not be usable for other things. Like if you have a baking sheet, you wouldn't want to put that in the grill unless it's going to be dedicated for it. I personally, even today, went out and bought a few extra pans to use specifically for preparing and going out onto the grill. So you're going to need specific tools for your barbecuing and for your smoking. All right, so number 4 items, you're going to need seasonings. Okay, seasonings, of course, we know our pepper, salt, and garlic, what they call SPG, but there's other type of seasonings. You can buy pre-made seasonings. You can make your own from paprika, chili powder, different ingredients there. I've seen MSG, heard anything about honey powder, sugars, different sugars from brown sugar to cane sugar. All different types of things have been put into barbecue seasonings, but what you want to do is find something that works for you. Whether you have to make it, you buy it, adjust it a little bit, but however it works, it has to work for you. But you need to be able to season your meat. Finally, you want to be able to have the 5th thing you need is your sauces. Okay, sauces come in a couple of different things. Now I call a brine a sauce also because it is a liquidy thing. So there's lots of ways to impart flavor to your barbecue. One of them is a brine. A brine is usually a specific concoction of liquids that you can put your meat into that will allow it to start absorbing and start to break down some of that meat to get it ready for cooking, and also impart some flavor. The next, besides a brine, would be an injection. Injection is basically a brine that goes inside, and some of these things you can import. Once again, more flavor is the key. That's really what you're trying to do. More flavor, more juiciness, trying to break down the meat, make it more tender. Then on the exterior of your meat, another sauce would actually be just a baste. Okay, so your baste would be something that you use while the food is cooking to keep it moist and also to, once again, impart some more flavor to it. And finally, you have your sauce. Your sauce is a thicker version of a base. A base is more liquidy, more fluid, and the sauce is a little heavier and a little thicker. So your sauce will be your last item of imparting flavor. So I hope these 5 tips, these 5 basics of barbecue, will help you in your barbecue journey.